So good morning. Welcome back, and I'm pleased to be able to present to you the work and activities and achievements of the organization that we've been able to accomplish, undertake on your behalf over the past year. It's always a tough job to be able to make this presentation in an hour and a half, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. I apologize to my co-workers who for some reason trust me to deliver on their behalf 2 or 3 slides and convey to you that they've been able to achieve that over the course of a whole year. Believe me, they do more than 2 or 3 slides worth of work. That's what we have to do in order to send the message to you. So anyway, we're going to start, and we're going to start by my screen coming up so it's showing something different than a picture of me. I need to look at something different than a picture of me to follow myself along here. Anyway, this is a head office report. I like to start every year by talking about what others say about us. And there was a couple of really good things that we were able to accomplish last year, and a couple of quotes that I want to share with you are from a DFO media release. Fisheries and Oceans Canada considers OFH an important stakeholder and partner with whom we currently work together on many initiatives relating to fish and fish habitat in Ontario. Dr. John Gunn, who's a scientist, Laurentian University in Sudbury, said, "Thank you for your continued support of young research scientists through the OFH Research Grant Program. These grants are important financially, but are also a very proud addition to students' CV as they prepare for future careers." And we all know that's so important, and you're going to see some students tonight receive some bursaries to help their continuing education. And we have a note that we received from GLFC Vice Chair Bob Lamb. Is Bob still in the room? He's on a conference call. Ed, thank you. Ed represents DFO. Ed's managing the southern region, Ontario. Ontario Director, I'm sorry, I don't have all my notes with me. I was going to introduce you later, and I apologize. I actually grew up with Ed. It's hard to believe he looks so much older than me, but he was actually, he actually worked for me, believe it or not. In a food store, in a grocery store. And he remembers that to this day, right? What fun we had. So anyway, Bob wrote to us, "The Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters is determined to restore native Atlantic salmon to Lake Ontario. And the Federation's commitment to the development of the partnership needed to make Atlantic salmon restoration restoring a reality is nothing short of incredible." Sorry for messing that up. Bob was instrumental in being with us throughout some of the presentations we've already made this year on Atlantic salmon, and he was actually taking some time out of his busy schedule to attend a pretty important meeting and presentation that we had in Toronto with some potential benefactors of the program coming up in 2011, and we appreciated him taking time out of his busy schedule to do so. So let's talk about some OFAH programs. And for those at home, if you're looking at the screen right now, you're seeing a number of examples of Federation programs that we deliver on your behalf. Many are high-profile programs. Many are helping us establish what I will refer to as the theme of my comments this morning, is relevance. Relevance for angling and hunting in today's society. Relevance for angling and hunting in mainstream society. Relevance for the things we do, and we know we've always done as fish and wildlife conservationists. And these programs help us do that, and I'm going to demonstrate that this morning for you. And the first one is the Atlantic Salmon Program. Bring back the salmon. And a little overview over the past year, 870,000 fish were stocked. 16 habitat projects were completed. We had 55 classroom hatcheries up and running right across the province. We had 3 assessment crews in the field for about 7 months of the year, doing assessment on the program, finding out whether it was working. Fish production and stocking, the mainstay of the program. Just like wild turkey reintroduction. If we don't have turkeys and put them on the landscape, we're not going to have a successful program. For this one, we need fish. So in March and April, 98,000 yearlings were stocked. We had 3 sorts hatcheries. Normandale, Fleming College were 2 of them. And half went to the credit. The balance went to Duffins Creek and Coburg Creek. 2.67 million fish have been stocked in the first 5 years. A remarkable achievement. 2011, 657,000 more fish will go in the water. And already this year, as a result of our brood stock in provincial hatcheries, We've already collected 2.9 million eggs, and 900,000 eggs have already directly been deposited into rivers. Research and assessment, an important part. And as a result of that assessment, DFO confirmed successful spawning in the Credit River this year. Successful spawning. And we've seen that. We've seen fish coming back into the rivers. And for the very first time in 100 years, we're having successful spawning of Atlantic salmon. We had significant angler catches in 2010 from Lake Ontario. We had great survival rates of the work we were doing with the fish we were putting in the water. And for the first time, we had the very first documented wild-born Atlantic salmon as a result of this program in the Credit River, and many more documentations of Atlantic salmon being born from our program in Duffins. Remarkable achievement. Remarkable achievement. An important aspect of our program is education and outreach. And why not? We can do all kinds of good things, but if we don't tell anybody about them, it doesn't matter, except to the fish and except to us. And we need to make sure we spread that message, because part of the message is relevance. Relevance in today's society. 55 classroom hatcheries, as I said, from Fort Erie to Kingston. Some hatcheries received better chilling systems to take care of their fish more appropriately this year. We had some great partners, and again, our programs are all about partnerships. Toronto Zoo, Let's Talk Science out of McMaster, Ministry of Natural Resources, of course, and Quinte Conservation Dinner. Water quality and habitat protection. Since 2006, over 2,600 volunteers have contributed 7,400 plus hours. 97 projects on 3 tributaries. We planted almost 15,000 trees, 8,500 shrubs, restored over 13,000 meters of stream shoreline. So you can see it's a significant program and a significant undertaking from our staff and our volunteers. And here's where we get into an example of the reach of a program. And I'll try to, in just very few moments, establish what that reach means. But here's the types of impressions we get, or the number of people that hear about the program. So when we do print and web, that type of coverage, we get $125,000 worth of media. Shows, $29,000 worth of media value. Radio, $17,000 worth of media value. And television, $362,000 worth of media value when we do interviews, when we run PSAs, when we have news items that are featured on local newscasts. Brochure, $7,200. What a remarkable number this is. I couldn't believe it when we had the company do an assessment for us that these numbers were this high. Look at the number of impressions. 15 million in 1 year. 15 million people knew we were reintroducing Atlantic salmon. 15 million people knew that partners like M&R, DFO, Banrock Station, LCBO were involved in this program. And look at the value, $541,000. So let me reverse it. I go to a media company, I say, I want to reach 15 million people with a message next year. And they tell me, write me a check for $541,000. That's what it's going to cost. Amazing results. And our partners. We can't do it without our partners. Banrock Station Wines have been there since the beginning. LCBO, Sport Fishing Industry Association, GLFC. There's a lot of people that make this happen. And I wish I had time to mention every one of them. And the list goes on and on. I was hoping to be able to announce a new partner today. There will be a new partner announced at the $1.25 million level for 5 years in April of this year. Community Stream Steward Program, another great program of your federation. Not a new program, or not an old program, more of a new program. But again, we do great work on the ground with this program. 650 projects in 2010, 27 planting sites, 3 stream crossings, 12 fencing projects, bank stabilization, 11,000 plus meters of stream protected, 260 volunteers, and I'm sure that some of our volunteers that are involved in this program are watching right now online. And I thank them for their support. 2,400 hours to make these projects happen in 2010. We attended meetings and workshops and events. Our staff were involved in every one of those. We hosted some workshops ourselves in communities like Pefferlaw, Campbellford, and Ashburn, and we did some training sessions, one in Cannington. So very involved. The program sustainability, this program is very sustainable. We're looking for growth again in 2011. We were able to expand our efforts in 2010 because we're able to increase our staff, and our staff are working on some funding for 2011 right now to make the program even better than it was. And partners. What can we do without partners? Talk about relevancy. There were years ago, I've been with the Federation now 24 years. There were years ago when companies that you see featured on these screens would never have partnered with somebody with the name Angler and Hunter. That's a reality. It's still a reality for some today, but not as many. We have no problem getting into doors. We have no problem opening up dialogue with some key corporations and foundations and groups and individuals in this country. The name is not a barrier, and it should never be a barrier. Invading Species Awareness Program, long-established program of the Federation and the MNR. You can see on my left, I guess on your left on the screen, is a new logo for the program. What's it about? Well, it's a partnership, and it is one of the soundest partnerships, one of the most successful partnerships that I could ever imagine OFAH having with our government and our ministry. And it really was started. It really took off when Ernie Eves came to Hamilton in 2002, I believe, and said to our conference, I am committed to messaging with you on the importance of keeping invasive species out of the province of Ontario. And he said, I've got a challenge. I'm going to put $200,000 up if you match it. Now, early on, when Ernie was on his way, I had heard it was only going to be $100,000. And about 10 minutes before his speech, I heard he had bumped it to $2 million. So although I was scrambling a little bit up here, I was looking forward to the announcement and the challenge, and we were able to meet the challenge. And of course, the challenge has grown. And we've worked in concert with MNR. Lots of MNR staff have been involved. More recently, Rosalind Lawrence, who is our ADM, who is so supportive of many of the things we do. This partnership is one of them. And we are $300,000 plus in matching funds, and we brought all kinds of other people to the table. So what is it about? It's about engaging the participation of Ontarians in the prevention of the spread of invasive species. That's what it's about. Early detection and rapid response initiatives for invasive species such as Asian carp, giant hogweed, which you've heard so much about this past year, European water chestnut, and water soldier. Those are some of the things we work on. We've made significant contributions provincially, nationally, and internationally to some initiatives over the course of the past year, such as our Ontario Invasive Plant Council, which you'll hear about in a few moments, the U.S. Great Lakes Panel on Aquatic Nuisance Species, Canadian Aquatic Invasive Species Network, and the list goes on and on. Our staff are so well connected right across North America with this program. Communications. We're good at communications. Your federation is good at communicating. And 2010 was a record year in this area for media interest, with close to 100 interviews in radio, television, newsprint, reaching over 5 million people. 5 million people with the message. Outreach, we attended more than 180 events, reached 303,000 people alone in those events. Things like gardening shows. We reached hunters. We reached anglers. We reached aquarium hobbyists. We did workshops and presentations for bait harvesters. Over 672,000 pieces of material were distributed province-wide last year with this program. Staff fielded requests for 1,300 people from 1,300 people with respect to the hotline, a 30% increase from the year before. We have a northern coordinator for outreach this year in Lake Superior. Lake Simcoe, we did a winter outreach, and we did some great billboard work for ice fishing and trailer wraps. And one of them was inspect, clean, and drain. And when I first entered into this program, there was a larger slide on one of those items. And you can see one of the snowmobile trailer wraps there in the picture if it's large enough for you to see. Aquatic invasive workshops were part of our program last year for technical professionals. Hazard analysis critical control point workshop for bait harvesters. We're always concerned about what bait harvesters are going to do if they don't take care in transferring invasive species from one area to another. We don't want that to happen. It's a bad thing. We all know that. and yet we still want to fish with live bait. So we got to find a balance. We've got to find a compromise that protects our interests. The HIT Squad. The HIT Squad was great. We have the Heritage Center now. We had 23 students who were hired through the whole summer. They visited the Heritage Center. They had a whole day where we created an orientation session for them to understand what we needed them to do. And they did a great job. They educated, they engaged their communities in invasive species prevention. And every time they did that, every day they were out there, they created relevance. They created relevance for our name. They created relevance for the provincial government in their support for stopping the spread of invasive species, and all our partners. Billboards, we talked about them. Stop invasive species, inspect, clean, and drain. Part of our communications vehicles. Website continues to be popular, and we're doing some new work this year on a website with some enhanced linkages to M&R, and so it should improve and increase traffic. The WATCH program is still strong. 112 lakes are monitored by community groups right across the province. And they give us information on spiny water flea and zebra mussels. This is where volunteers come in. How could we get to 112 lakes? We can't. And how could we do ongoing monitoring? We can't. So we need volunteers. Relevance. They know who we are. They know what we do. They know what we're passionate about. And they're accepting of that. And they know the program is important. So we developed some other documents. We did some giant hogweed management strategy. I'm sure you're all tired of hearing about giant hogweed, but I think you're going to hear more about it this year. Invasive plants landowner control workshop. Asian carp. You're going to hear a lot about Asian carp in the coming year. I hope it's all good news, like the great job enforcement has done so far this year in stopping the movement of live carp into the province. All those things are an important part of the program. Amazing, amazing numbers here, folks. Amazing numbers. And I hope our viewers can see this at home. For the print and web type of our media activity, $195,000 in value. Shows, $28,000 in value. Radio, $311,000 in value. That's how much we would have had to pay for the time we did interviews, the time we did PSAs, et cetera, et cetera. Television, 110. Billboards, wow, are billboards ever good for sending a message? $483,000 in value from our billboard program. So we're going to look at expanding our billboard program. And we have people calling the office and saying, hey, I saw the billboard. I've seen the billboard. It's great. Web, 6,000. But the totals, 46 million impressions for the Invasive Species Awareness Program in 2010. 46 million people. At some point in time, this program touched their lives. They became familiar with it. They understood it. They heard the name. They talked about partners. They understood it was the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters and other groups associated with this program. And the media value, I go into a media company and I say, I want to have 46 million people understand who I am. Cut me a check. I'll do it for you for $1 million. That's what that's worth. And our partners, again, very important partners. There's our partners at the government level. And our other partnerships, which are all strong, healthy partnerships. You imagine in 1992, we didn't have this program with this many partners. You can imagine the catalyst that was created by Premier Eve saying, let's put some money in the kitty. And we've been able to build on that. Doesn't matter what color of government we have. That's important. This government, regardless of who is on one side of the house or the other, is committed to this program. And we're pleased with that. And conservation authorities are an important part of the program. And some of you here and some of you at home are connected with conservation authorities. I know you sit on boards. I know you sit on committees. I know you do good work in your community with them. They're an important partner. The Plant Council, the Invasive Plant Council, was founded in April of 2007. Provides a coordinated and effective provincial response to the threat of invasive plants. We've taken a lead role in assisting the development of the council. We have a new terms of reference and a board with an established executive committee and a number of committees that we work with on that council. A lot of immediate attention in this past year to giant hogweed, so it elevated the attention the Ontario Invasive Plant Council was getting. We did numerous radio, television, newspaper interviews. We had an annual meeting which attracted over 120 attendees. So it's a great program, again, that we're able to offer and initiate. Ringwood. We have a great host club, Metro East Anglers. We have a great hatchery coordinator in Andy Rubicek, who is our full-time staff person. And we entered, starting in September, our 5th and final production year. And let me explain what we did last year. 650,000 Chinook were raised. And Rosalind and Eric have been out with me on the water, and we realize that we're getting bigger Chinook now as a result of ringworm than we've ever got, right? And Rosalind got the biggest fish. I know, I've heard all about it. She reminds me all the time. In preparation for transfer to pen rearing locations, 85,000 Chinook need to be hand-clipped. In addition, 24,000 coho were raised by our club. 22,000 rainbow will be stocked out in the spring. When this program is over this year, the Memorandum of Understanding ultimately will have expired. It won't be renewed. The Chinook production will be transferred to Normandale Fish Culture Station, which is undergoing a major rebuild and expansion. So let me explain. We got into fish culture because we felt there was a problem in the system that we might endure because of capacity. David Ramsey, minister at the time, who I have a ton of respect for as a minister, felt, I think, that he had to close some hatcheries. And Ringwood and Normandale were on the block. And we said, tell us where the capacity in the system is going to be maintained. And they couldn't answer that. And so we said, okay, maybe there's another alternative. We've got to get somebody's attention on fish culture. Maybe the alternative is that we go in there and we run the hatchery and we rear Chinook until such a time as, pardon my expression, the government of the day gets their act together on whether fish culture is core program or not. And they said, sure, why not? And so we did. Club was great. Club responded. We've done a wonderful job. I can tell you that Minister Donna Cansfield and Minister Linda Jeffrey and the current staff, including Rosalind, Eric, Mike, and others, Kevin Loftus, they get it. It took us a little time, but they get it. They know that fish culture is a core program. So not only did we rebuild Dorian in the last couple of years, we've got a major rebuild on for Normandale. And I wouldn't have thought that would have been possible 5 years ago when we were talking about closing 2 hatcheries. Now we're rebuilding 2 and focusing the attention on a brand new facility. And I look forward to, I want to be around. I don't want to retire before that opens, Rosalind, so we need to make sure that's done next year. Eric, make a note of that, will you? Next year. Speed it up, will you? Would you like me to work on it for you? Normandale will continue as a major production facility for the Lake Ontario Atlantic Salmon Restoration Program, as well as Chinook, rainbow, and brown trout. And going back to some people that are viewing at home today, I'm sure this is great news for the community down in Normandale. This is great news to have a brand new state-of-the-art facility. Those employees don't want to go anywhere. They want to keep their jobs. They care about fish. Nice lead into hunter education. I don't know what Cam's looking for there. Ontario Hunter Education Program, again, very proud of our partnership. This to OFAH is like motherhood. It's a mainstay for the OFAH to be involved in this partnership. And look at the numbers here. Look at what the trend is doing. And Bill commented on it yesterday in his report. The last 3 years, over 17,000 new people, new students to hunter education have come to the table. Since mandatory hunter education was introduced in 1960, over 1 million people have been safely trained. And key is safely. Safely trained, because that's why we initiated the program. And it was this federation who started to talk about hunter education in Ontario. 20 new instructors were trained last year. Most of them have delivered their first courses. In March, we signed a new agreement with the province for both hunter education and wild turkey. We had a conference this past year, the 19th in London. Oliver Berrio from Valcarin was added to the Hall of Fame. 46 years of service to hunter education in Ontario. Remarkable achievement. 2010 was 50 years of mandatory hunter education in the province. And we still have our scholarship program called YES, Y-H-E-S. And 319 people over the course of the past 10 years have finished their course, and we've paid for it with the program. People who couldn't afford to pay for it. Youth. Single-parent families. $53,000 we paid to hunter education instructors to teach these young people because they wanted to hunt. We have a new standardized half-day wild turkey seminar, which we've received a ton of praise from attendees. We know they don't want to sit there any longer in a seminar than they have to. It's gone over very well. Usually we're getting complaints, too long, too much time, too much rhetoric. It's been wonderful. Both spring and fall seminars were delivered in 2010. We got 81 new turkey hunters in the province who've taken courses across 46 locations. And as you heard the minister talk about the home learning program, I've got to thank Deb Stetson and Beth for working on this, as well as Joe Reed, because we've been pushing this thing for a long time. And if Cam Mack's in the room, he'll remember at one point in time, I think we offered to pay for it, and Cam very eloquently said, "Can't take your money for that right now." So I'm really pleased that we're spending the province's money on this. Anyway, this is going to happen. It's going to happen this year. We're very pleased with it. But it doesn't mean that you can sit at home and do the course and you're going to get your certificate. What it means is you're going to do the course at home, and then you're going to go and you're going to do the test, and somebody's going to mentor that test face-to-face. Our hunter ed instructors seem to be very enthusiastic about delivering that test on the ground. So the network that we've created as a result of this plan is going to provide more opportunity, more accessible approach to hunter education with respect to wild turkey. And it may lead to talking about a different model for hunter education in the future. And I don't think that's coming in the short term, but let's see how this works. Let's roll it out. Let's make it successful. And we'll talk about the other later. Family fishing weekends. You heard about the minister's experience this past winter. In 2010, we had 2 weekends, a winter weekend for 2 days, a summer week, which was part of National Fishing Week, which the Canadian sport fishing industry is involved in very, very much. License-free, fun for the whole family. I noticed on my lake in Chemong for the past couple of years all kinds of family fishing, because in the Kawarthas, for example, OFAH was asking for ice fishing in the Kawarthas for a long period of time for panfish. I've heard it. Nobody's going to fish panfish. I'm not going to go and drill a hole to catch perch. You wouldn't believe the ice hut village on the bottom of Chemong Lake. You wouldn't believe that even Cam Mack can catch crappie through the ice on Chemong Lake. But it happens. It really happens. And it's that easy. And it's all because we've got ice fishing. Right, Cam? And Cam was part of making that happen along with many of his staff. So we appreciate that. And even though Eric has that role now, some things have to start 5 years in advance of it ever happening, so I have to reflect back on Cam's work on that, Eric. And Eric's fine with that. Eric has never caught as many fish as you have through the ice, because I've been out with Eric. yeah, neither have I, yes. Likely. Tackle Share, great program. The minister referenced it in her speech. We still deliver it right across the province. It's been 10 years in the running now. We get a little bit of a problem with our wording there on the screen. I guess sometimes when you move one program to another system, it doesn't catch the same setup, so I apologize for that. 2010, Ontario Power Generation came forward and signed on as the lead program sponsor, and they're back again this year. And in 2011, we start the Traveling Roadshow again. This is not the Traveling Roadshow. The Traveling Roadshow is the students that will go out across the province and visit provincial parks and put on hands-on demonstrations on fishing as part of the Tackle Share program. It works like a library. You've heard me before. You go in, you want to fish, you've got your license, and if you don't have a license, they'll sell you one, and then you borrow a rod and reel, and we give you a tackle pack, and you go out and you bring the rod and reel back. I remember the discussions we've first had with great partners like Shimano Canada and Berkeley and others. We need rods and reels. Well, how many are you going to need? Well, we're going to need a couple of thousand. Well, what are you going to do with them? We're going to create a program called Tackle Share. How does it work? We're going to loan them out. Oh, yeah, we're going to be giving you 2,000 rods and reels every year. This doesn't work like a library, folks. Fishermen are honest. They bring the rods and reels back. Unlike library books where you look for delinquents who don't return their books, we have never had an issue with rods and reels not coming back. Imagine that. And if you're watching at home today and you don't have a Tackle Share in your community, a program, a place to set up to help big brothers or big sisters or a conservation authority, get in touch with our head office staff. Angler Awards promotes recreational fishing in Ontario. We receive great exposure again, great profile, relevance in some parts of our society. We have thousands of people who visit the website in 2010 and enter their catch. There's a minimum requirement for entering a catch. It does very well with the lodges and resorts, so we're pleased with that. Provincial Get Outdoors Summership Leadership Camp. I'm so proud of this and our staff. 4-day-long outdoor experience, and it is the envy of many groups like us who would love to have a program like this. We are very fortunate to have such great volunteers to make this happen. It combines leadership, team building, conservation education, outdoor exploration, fishing, target shooting with 22s, and archery. And if you're looking at your screen here at home, look at the smile on that young lad's face. Good grouping with a 22 there. Likely one of the first times he's able to shoot a firearm under very strict supervision to allow him the opportunity and the experience to know what that's like to target shoot and to use a firearm safely, responsibly. And he will take hunter education as soon as he can. So we have a great program. We actually expanded to a third camp last year. So over a 2-week period, we deliver 3 4-day camps. They're totally full, totally sold out each year. No problem filling them. We have kids at the conference. You've seen them. You'll see them here all weekend long. We started this about 9 or 10 years ago. And you'll see about 80 kids at the conference who will participate in our leadership camp here. And it's a wonderful reminder of where we came from and the experiences we can provide them today. Women's Outdoor Weekends. 16 years in the making, another great program that we are so proud of. It was delivered in Minden last year at the Canark Outdoor Center. 100 participants plus. Every year that's the case. Look at the sponsors. They make it happen. And women are becoming more relevant in today's hunting and fishing society than ever before. When you go back to the hunter education numbers and look at 17,000 plus in the past few years, 25% of them were women. 25%. Move over, guys. It's changing, and that's a good thing. Record Fish Registry promotes recreational fishing. It's the official scoreboard for anglers who want to be seen as catching the big one. It's their dream. Advanced Taxidermy, who you see some of their work here today, have done a marvelous job reproducing the replicas. You'll be able to see their replicas in the Heritage Center. So they do a wonderful, wonderful job for us. 2 records last year, a freshwater drum and a long-nosed gar. And there's the list of records. And all this is available on our website. And by the way, if I'm going through this quickly, I don't have a year in review book here with me, but you can get the full year in review online. And everybody here in the audience will have a booklet. And if you can't get one online, or if you hear from somebody who wants one, let us know and we will get them one. Because the full activities of your federation is a number of pages deep. It's a pretty important document. I'm giving you highlights of the year. And I would say that if I've missed something, I apologize. It was not intentional. It was that we have so much information to share. Wild Turkey Registry. Still a small cost, $8 for members, $15 for non-members, and a different pin each year, 140 entries recognizing birds last year. Well, we talked about it on Thursday, and a remarkable achievement for your federation to be able to open the OFH Mario Cortellucci Hunting and Fishing Heritage Center. Long time coming. After the ribbon cutting and the grand opening, we received hundreds of visitors over the course of the summer and early fall who had a tour of the facility. There you can see a number of people engaged in the ribbon cutting, and our president, proud that day, Rob Hare, along with a number of key sponsors like Shimano with the aquarium, Walter Oster with the amphitheater, government attendees, politicians. Of course, politicians love to be at these things, with all due respect. And this was one of those days where they really loved to be there because we didn't ask them for any money. They didn't give us a dime. And I reminded Mr. Flaherty of that. I reminded Minister Flaherty. But that was a good thing. It was funded by one person primarily, Dr. Mario Cortellucci, and you will see him here on Saturday night. In addition to daily tours and group bookings, we also featured a speaker series. In September, we welcomed our first class field trip. And over the course of the fall, we did 35. And keep in mind that the program is tied to the provincial school curriculum. Right now, we have 1 to 8 curriculum. By the fall of 2011, we'll have high school curriculum. We have to do that. We have no alternative. If you want schools to come, we need to be able to provide them with curriculum-based learning so that teachers can justify the visit. We're likely reaching 45-minute radius of Peterborough right now. I don't know whether that's expandable or not, but certainly we want to expand our programs in the summer and holiday seasons. And even last year, we had a summer Get Outdoors camp for the community, and it worked out great at the center. We have 2 full-time teachers on staff that are doing a wonderful, wonderful job. And the pond has become part of the program. We still operate it. I know I've said it before. If you were living in Peterborough, why would you need a pond to fish in? But quite frankly, we have it stocked with bass, panfish. It's very busy. people that are retired, people that need special care, and our staff look after them. There's Dave Pinn giving away a truck to a winner. A truck and a boat. That leads us into membership and fundraising. Lottery. 36 years we've been running a conservation lottery. And the prizes are totaling almost $300,000. They're still $2 a ticket. OFH clubs get $6 back for work in their community for every book they sell. The prize list is really extensive. You can see the poster there on your screen. Many of you are involved both here and at home in selling lottery tickets. We know that because it's so successful. Dodge is still a big partner. We have a new boat sponsor this year in G3. They are a Yamaha product, so it ties in nicely with Yamaha Motors. They have a long-term agreement with us now. And many, many other partners who make this program possible. And remember, when you're in a club and you're in a mall, you're in downtown Owen Sound, you're in Kapuskasing, you're in Barrie, when you're there with that sign, when you're there with that logo, when you're selling those lottery tickets to members of the general public, you're creating relevance for the organization just by that promotion, just by that person stopping and talking to you. We have a lottery bonus print still this year. It's a Scrape Line Buck, titled Scrape Line Buck by Trevor Tennant. It's $10 for shipping and handling, but if you sell 5 books, obviously it's free. Many people participate in that. And you've been part of our award ceremony on Thursday night recognizing the clubs. I won't mention them here again. They all deserve a great amount of gratitude from all of us for spending the time to go out and sell the tickets and do that legwork. We appreciate all their support. Growth, membership growth. Few membership organizations, and we know this because we talk to all of our counterparts across the country and into the U.S., can boast of our membership retention and growth rates that we've experienced as OFAH, even in time of economic uncertainty. This is the 3rd year for an all-time high, although it was only by a few members. You want to be going up, you don't want to be going down. So in April of last year, we reached almost 84,000. At year end, we were still over 83.5. So combined with the membership, combined with the subscribers to Ontario Editors Magazine, combined with the number of people that contribute to the OFAH, over and above that, our reach is over 100,000. Membership growth, solid team effort, doesn't happen, and nothing happens at head office without a team effort. Absolutely nothing. All of our staff are important. We have a great membership team headed by Robert Pye, who looks after the membership growth area of the office. We developed a record number of offers last year, all the way from print, advertising, television, direct mail, et cetera, et cetera. So it was really, really great results that we achieved over the course of the year. We have monthly giving. Now remember, I reminded you, we were asked to do this. You might think we think of all these things ourselves. I'd like to take credit for it, but we don't. Many of our members came to us a number of years ago and said, look, I contribute to other organizations and I give monthly. You don't have any system in place for me to give you money monthly, and that's easy for me. Take it out of your bank account, take it off my credit card. I'd like to give you $20 a month. How can we make this work? So we tested it. And right now we have almost 2,600 members who contribute monthly. Some of them will combine it with their individual membership, so their membership is paid at the same time they're making a contribution. But all in all, it generates in excess of $260,000. And so everybody who wants to come onto the plan today, please put your hand up. I'll look after you personally. Life members, 528 in 2010. That's the new number. They are some of our most dedicated members, as you know. And club growth, we're at 670 member clubs. They're so very important because they are the grassroots level of the organization that, regardless of whether it rains, snows, hails, or is hot sun, are out there doing many of the conservation initiatives across the province that we need them to do. They are core volunteers, vitally important to the health of the organization. And we had some new clubs, obviously, that come forward to recognize the advantages of our insurance package. Member benefits, one of them obviously is insurance. We have an alliance among affiliates to buy the insurance coverage. So we're aligned with people like Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, our wildlife partners across the country. That's how we get great rates and able to pass those on and be able to insure our membership. We continue to remind our clubs that the policy has to have you maintain 100% membership in your club in order to enjoy the liability benefit. You can't have 90 in and 10 on the fence. You have to get the other 10 over the fence. Many members took advantage of many great member benefits, including AIL, MasterCard. It's a benefit because MasterCard and Bank of Montreal give us $55,000 each year because you use the card. If you stop using the card, we don't get the $55,000. And I'd like to think that you're going to continue to use the card. I am. Likely too much, according to Judy. And Motel 6 is another example of where you're going to get a member benefit. Please support those people that are giving you member benefits. How many people here shop at Mark's Imagewear? Lots of people shop at Mark's, and we know that because they give us $20,000 a year, and they've told us we are the most important and popular affinity program they have. With any other group, nobody produces as much as OFH members. And if there's something on sale, I learned this from one of our staff. I think Ian's here, and Ian Delorier just retired, but he's back to join us today. Welcome back, Ian. If something's on sale, you don't get a discount. But show your card, because when they swipe the card, we still get the benefit, even if it's on sale. So you don't necessarily benefit, but your federation does. And our corporate sponsors, they're all wonderful people. Many people involved in these companies, we know them personally. We have personal relationships with them. Please support them. If you're thinking of buying a crossbow, look to Excalibur first. If you're thinking of buying insurance, you need to look at BrokerLink. If you're going to go to a show, I hope you're going to get to the Toronto Sportsman Show. And the list goes on. We just want you to consider these people when you're making a purchase or buying a service. It's important. Merchandise, again, creating relevance, getting us exposure in the community. We sell merchandise. Many of you people are wearing it here today, and we see many people on the street. The proceeds go to benefit our conservation work. Calendar and card program. Again, 14,000 calendars were sold last year, 26,000 Christmas cards. We give you a charitable receipt for your calendar donation. And just as I flip the screen here to dinners, I remind you that every time you send a Christmas card, when somebody looks at it and they turn it around, there's an OFH logo on it. So your friend or your relative who receives it knows where it came from. They know how important fishing and hunting is to you. So I know we can buy cards less expensively. I know that. I have the discussion all the time. They're $12 a dozen. I can buy 2 dozen for $6. Well, okay, here's a challenge. Buy 2 dozen for $6. But buy 1 dozen at $12 and send them to those people that you want to deliver a message to. That's all I ask. Dinners, we have some dinners, some great dinners in the province. Sudbury is a remarkable dinner, which raises all their money for elk. And the list goes on and on. Owen Sound, which is a club event really in Halliburton, both to support hatchery work. They're great, great events. 85% of the profits are retained in the community. We don't have many dinners. We don't have the same program we had years ago. We're not out to look to that market to expand or compete. But if you're interested in one, our staff would be pleased to explain what we do for you when you're hosting a dinner in your community. Communications. We are good at communicating. And we're good for a reason, because we have great resources. We have a reason to communicate well. Hunting, fishing, conservation, firearms issues, fish and wildlife management, hunter education, the list goes on. And we have Angler Hunter Hotline inserted into Ontario Outdoors magazine as one of the ways we communicate. It is 8 pages. It was 8 pages. Now it's 16 pages. Leslie's going to hand me something here. Oh, that's okay. We're a little late because I didn't have it with me. This, by the way, is the report that you should have. And for those at home, this is what you want to look for online, is the 2010 annual report. The communication vehicle hotline is the first thing people read when they get their magazine. And unfortunately for Leslie, fortunately for us that Leslie came on board, unfortunately for her, the time that she came on board, we were at 8 pages and we expanded to 16. Right around that time. So the workload doubled. She's doing a tremendous job in being the author of much of the material in there and sourcing the information, as well as many other duties that are on her plate. But we do other things. We advertise. We have internet. We do news releases, 1 a week, media relations, membership campaigns. All those things are important. Letters to the editor, PSAs. They're all ways in which we communicate. The magazine, a couple of years ago, we finally were successful in working out an arrangement with Rogers to purchase Ontario Outdoors magazine. It's been a great, great initiative for the OFAH, a wonderful undertaking. We have a new campaign out right now. This is Ontario Out of Doors Country. We have billboards. You see the remarkable opportunity that we have to create impressions with billboards, as well as we're going to have a trailer wrap with that message on it, which will be traveling from somewhere around Barrie to over around Waterloo every day for the next year. Part of the communication strategy. Web. You can imagine a webmaster having to take care of one site and do it well, let alone having 14 sites to look after, getting 2.2 million visitors a year, but that's what we do. Television. 18 years. Cam has done a remarkable job with the TV show. I'm sure you'll all agree. Cam is a great host. I'm sure all of you watch. Tune in early tomorrow morning and we'll see you at 7:30 for breakfast. From the edge of the water to the edge of the trails, Cam has really done a complete turnaround with our program, I think, even in the last couple of years. The initiative that he's taken to make the program interesting and generate awareness is remarkable, and he does it with the help of his sponsors, obviously, and with his TV crew. And there's where we are, right across the province. You're going to see Global Television being recognized as an industry partner on Saturday night for their initiative on our behalf. And you wonder, well, why does it matter if we're in Edmonton or British Columbia? Well, again, it matters because we're sending a message right across the country. We're doing that partially because we want the reach for our sponsors, obviously. But it helps our affiliates, too. We're talking about fishing and hunting. We're talking about mainstream conservation initiatives. And you wonder whether people watch in BC. They do. In fact, Cam just came back from a show in BC where he was asked to attend and speak and do some seminars. He had a little struggle with talking about bass because out there they don't appreciate bass like we do here. But he was able to overcome. Great sponsors. They're all important. Please support them. And radio. Launched a brand new show this year. The reason I'm showing it in 2010 is because this work started a year and a half ago. As much as I can list the stations there and tell you where they are, and somebody's going to say it's not in your community, if you have internet at all, you can get this via live streaming. Just like we're communicating to members at home today, I tried every one of those stations the first weekend we were on. There was only one that had a connection problem, and that was fixed. So no matter where you are, at virtually any time of the day, Saturday or Sunday, you can get the show. You'll recognize his voice. You won't recognize the face until now, but Tom Otto is also the voice of television. So when you hear the voiceover in some of those sections of television, Tom is the voice. So we've had a good working relationship with Tom over the years. He's a radio man, and Tom is here. And Tom, stand up. Tom is the host of our program. The majestic elk and fish and wildlife management. So we're going to cover a number of issues here. Leslie's worried about me losing my voice because she's the stand-in. Fisheries and wildlife management. And again, I ask you to look at the annual report. I can't begin to give credit for the amount of work that our staff and our board of directors and our committees do at the level they work at to complete the work that we have. I can't spend enough time on this stuff. So I'm only going to give you brief overviews or highlights of some of the things we worked on over the course of the year. And the minister talked a little bit about moose. And we actually submitted recommendations over the course of 2010 with respect to 60 moose WMUs. It was part of the first phase of the population objective review. You can see those results on our website. And after the ministry has drafted a new moose population objective, it will then consult with the public, and we'll help you with those consultations. If you're a local club out there watching, or if you're a member here, if you want some help in being part of that consultation, we'll help you with your submissions. We always, every year, receive draft harvest plans, and then we look at those draft harvest plans. We want to share that information with the Big Game Management Advisory Committee when they have an allocation meeting. That's why Ed Reed's not here this weekend. He's reviewing those plans now in preparation for meetings next week. So we review every one of them. One of the proposals the minister talked to you about, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it was the transfer policy. They asked us what we thought. We agreed it should be fixed. And so the ministry and the staff involved in Eric's branch fixed it. It was a reasonable step towards discouraging padding of group applications, where applicants who do not actually intend to hunt apply. And so we wanted to fix it. Our committee was behind it, our board was behind it, and it has been fixed. And you can find our submission again online. Whitetail deer management, you're going to have a great presentation from Michael Gatt today. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. One of the questions is, what's happening with whitetail populations in many parts of southern Ontario. We actually expressed some concern a number of years ago whether we know enough about the specifics of whitetail populations and whether we're going to have an unintentional overharvest. We need better WMU-specific population assessments and harvest planning. We know the harvest has declined. We believe that the harvest will decline once we take a look at the numbers in 2010. We're hearing that from hunters. So there are questions and theories. I want you to be able to ask Michael about those today. One of those theories, you all know, is increased predation by coyotes. We'll also have another presentation by Brent Patterson, so another question for Brent. We've had some good winters. This past year was a good winter for white-tailed deer, we believe, relatively easy. So we should have really strong, hardy deer coming into the early season of this year. It didn't trigger anything to do with emergency winter deer feeding. M&R didn't need to do that this year, which was good. Wild turkey hunting. Your minister talked again today about wild turkey hunting. And considering the OFH proposal to make a spring opening a little earlier if it can be, they're considering that. They're still examining some proposals for some changes to the fall hunting season. More locations, obviously, where WMUs can handle a fall hunt. There's no new information, as you heard, on the environmental assessment. I have no idea what's happening that. We were with Minister Cansfield when she made the commitment. We got caught up in the fact that there needs to be an EA. So we'll have some other dialogue around that and see where that's going. It is going to cost a lot of money. And the unfortunate part about this is that we believe, as much as people who are around Manitoulin believe, there are wild turkeys already there. They are already there. Fall hunt, we've determined, along with M&R, there's no negative impact to wild turkey numbers as a result of fall harvest numbers. You can see the harvest numbers there. In 2008, there were 427 and 370 in 2009. As a result, we've been providing some other recommendations to M&R, additional fall hunting seasons, and adding a second week prior to Thanksgiving. Adding a second week in the third week of November would help, and maybe creating a longer and extended bow season would also help. Some additional fall wildlife management units, as I mentioned, could be opened. The spring harvest was down again. I hope that people are remembering they need to mandatory report a wild turkey harvest. You need to do that. If we don't have the right harvest numbers, how can we challenge our M&R counterparts to make the right decisions on harvesting plans, no matter where they are? So if you think it's easier now, if anybody does, think it's easier just to go home and, I haven't got it phoned in, well, I'll phone it in later, I didn't have to go to a check station, and you forget about it, it's not helpful. Number one, it's illegal, but it's not helpful. We need the data. We were pleased to hear that the Ontario Wild Turkey Working Group met in November. After 2007, we applaud M&R for reconvening that group. Migratory birds. You heard Scott Petrie talk a little bit about migratory birds, and one of the significant changes was an increase to the possession limit to 3 times the daily bag limit for migratory birds that do not currently fall into that category. So that was a real opportunity for us with migratory birds. Elk restoration and management. Well, again, we applaud M&R for approving the provincial elk management plan. And you're going to have a great presentation again tomorrow by Aaron, who's here today. And Aaron's going to present what's going on with elk in the province. Aaron will do a great job. We've had the opportunity to work with Aaron on a number of occasions, and I think you're going to enjoy her presentation. So keep all the tough questions for Aaron on the elk hunt. The proposed provincial policies include draft guidelines for elk harvest allocation, elk harvest management planning, and elk population objective setting. We're not necessarily opposed to the proposed elk harassment and removal policy. A lot of dialogue around that, provided, though, that it's strictly adhered to and used sparingly and wisely. And my M&R colleagues have heard us have a lot of discussion about this. We don't want to arbitrarily decide that we're going to dispatch an elk unless there's a darn good reason we're going to do it. We believe hunting and active hunting and pursuit of those animals in some of those areas where they're having problems with the agricultural community will be, for the majority of times, rectified by active hunting. I visited the farm community. I went up there. It was a great day. It was hot and cold, as you can imagine, when I was being toured around farms. And there was damage. I recognize that. And it was a wonderful opportunity for me to talk to them. So at the same time, we're dealing with that. We know that the policies and tools are there to help farmers if it's necessary. At the same time, we've also encouraged M&R to earmark some elk license revenues for elk habitat and damage prevention. We want them to create some demonstration sites. We want them to be able to take some money from this new system and assign it somewhere where it will be fundamentally helpful to people like Aaron and Deb and other people who are trying to manage that issue in Bancroft. We support some of the amendments associated with restricting hunting to licensed Ontario residents only for this new hunt, requiring elk hunters on private land to carry written landowner permission. Mandatory hunter reporting needs to happen for each seal, and allow elk hunters to choose their firearm or their way of hunting an elk as they so wish, rifles, muzzle loaders, or bows. So we'll have an historic hunt this year. And I hope to get involved in a group. If anybody has property in Bancroft that they're looking for a fourth person, I'm available. And actually, the year after, I'll have lots of time. Black bear management, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You might expect me to. I have been talking to Rosalind recently, and we are going to get an update. Staff is going to get an update on black bear population over the course of the next few weeks, so we're looking forward to that. M&R has done a great job in moving those yardsticks forward, so more communities have an opportunity to have some input in how they're going to manage black bear populations. So that's important. And chronic wasting disease. You've heard us talk about it before. We don't want the disease getting into the property. We want to make sure that prevention is clearly articulated as the only strategy to making sure we don't have CWD. In early 2010, M&R took additional steps to prevent the spread of CWD to Ontario through activities associated with hunting. M&R decided to prohibit the use of products that contain deer urine, blood, and glands for the purpose of hunting. We had no objection to that, with the exception of the gland issue. We had no objection to that. It was the timing that was problematic, because the timing that M&R chose to roll out with it was in late summer, early fall of last year, right when people had already purchased their scents, purchased their attractants, and then were expected to adhere to the law and not use them. That was problematic. We also had retailers with product that felt compromised. What do we tell people? We can sell it, but you can't use it for hunting. We can sell it, but you can't use it for hunting. We can sell it, but you can't use it for hunting. Then why allow them to sell it? What other purpose would it be? And I got the comment, this gets my blood pressure going, but I got the comment back, well, we don't want to stop them from selling it because maybe they'll sell it to them and they'll use it somewhere else. Well, hello. If it's going to spread CWD in Ontario, why would you want to sell it to somebody to use it somewhere else? Come on. We need to get our ministry engaged with other jurisdictions, with their other ministry, their counterparts, to be able to say, look, this is important for us. Our ministry's done their job. They've done as much as they can. They've gone as far as they can. But they need to engage their counterparts to ban the sale at the source. That's what they need to do in order to make this work. Or it's not going to work. If I'm a photographer, give me a case of that. I'll spread it all over the place. So be it. We hope that they will take further steps. The captive deer issue is important. Authorize the help to minimize the risk of entry of CWD into Ontario. We're dealing with that issue. It's important that any cervid vector be stopped. And we have a full response in the annual report. This is another issue here. This is an issue where deer farming can get out of hand. In early 2010, we were concerned about the escape of red deer in North Bay. An escape of red deer. And nobody knows how many. There could be upwards of 100. We agreed to give the ministry in that area time. But in early 2010, attempts to cull out the exotic red deer has had disappointing results. M&R doesn't have a handle on the numbers or the age structure of anything on the landscape. M&R also has no indication that the escaped red deer are in close proximity to the restored French River elk, because red deer virtually are an elk. So we're concerned about the transfer of disease to an elk population there that is fragile in itself. And M&R are concerned about somebody shooting an elk when they give somebody permission to dispatch a red deer because it has been released or escaped. So it's a problem. And this is what happens when you have unregulated farming of ungulates in Ontario. No restrictions, no fencing restrictions. Let's just, for our friends in the agricultural community, we understand that. We're talking about fair compensation. Let's just make sure that we don't have chronic wasting disease in this province. Because if it comes here, You can speak to our counterparts in Saskatchewan. If it gets here, you will never get rid of it. Coyotes and wolves, well, we've had lots of nuisance coyote issues this year. High coyote sightings were reported, urban and rural. You've heard our minister talk about it. Farmers, hunters, and others are also reporting very high numbers of coyotes. So we talked about a couple of approaches. Give trappers and farmers better tools and the means of targeting those coyotes that have become livestock killers. Promote general hunting and chase to keep them wary. We were involved in a Great Lakes Basin Wolf Stewardship Symposium, and what we found out from talking to our counterparts is that we actually have a very comparatively open hunting and trapping reg with respect to wolves and coyotes, and especially wolves, not unlike U.S. states. We have an unendangered policy, in other words, or they call it unendangered, and that's a good thing. But we urge the province to reverse the 2002 political decision to ban wolf and coyote hunting and trapping in the townships around Algonquin Park. It is unproductive. It's unproductive, it's unnecessary, and it was flawed science that led them to the conclusions they did. And they know that, and we pointed it out to them. So if you've made an error, correct the error. If you were making the decision on assumptions that you were given and they were found to be incorrect, make the change, make the correction. We need to make coyote wolf hunting licenses more widely available. I was actually thinking there may be a question to the minister this morning, but we've heard in some cases that they're not as widely available as they should be where they're needed. We're working on a draft coyote population biology and management discussion paper right now, and it'll have a strong focus on hunting, trapping, and predation management. Bait, lots of discussions on bait, live bait. It's a growing concern regarding the status of this industry. We want to continue to use live bait, but there are a number of issues around VHS, transportation of bait, and invading species. Our fisheries committee has been brought up to date. We have a provincial bait advisory committee that's being developed. Timing of the formation of the committee is still unknown, but we need to be at the table. And FMZs, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on FMZs. Much of the fisheries management issues in the province right now are being dealt by fisheries management zones. Look in this book. It's got a comprehensive report of work and activities within FMZs in the province of Ontario over the past year. We had some Conservation Act regulation amendments last year, and many of them we supported. Muzzleloader definition was changed, which was a good thing. There was an issue on muzzle energy. All this is online and in the book. Offense to overharvest snapping turtles and bullfrogs was clarified. Give effect to harvest limits. There wasn't anything there that would give M&R effect to have limits on harvest. Residency, which was a clarification for our Canadian Armed Forces who were away for a year or so at a time. We wanted to make sure that they maintain residency when they come back, just start fishing and hunting again. Long Point Provincial Park, there was a game possession issue. That was dealt with. One of the issues that we were concerned about, and M&R listened to us, and thank goodness they did, was a proposal requiring hunter orange on manufactured ground blinds when you were in a season where it was mandatory for you to wear hunter orange. That's the only time it applied. But we felt it was really unnecessary. We weren't convinced there was anything there that was safety-oriented. So we're going to work with Eric and other staff to make sure that we communicate that if you believe you're in an area where there are other hunters during that season of hunter orange, mandatory wearing, and that you feel that you're in a public place, public property where there may be some other people moving around, you may want to put a patch on your blind, but that's your choice. But M&R decided not to go ahead with it, and we'll work with them on public education on that. Small game hunting issues, just a couple. We want to continue research on sandhill crane population because we're looking to move the province toward a sandhill crane hunt. Those people in Manitoulin will be happy about that and other areas of the province. We wrote Canadian Wildlife Service in support of a mourning dove hunt. That's moving along. So those are a couple of issues. Woodland Caribou Conservation Plan. Maybe I should ask Rosalind to come up and speak about this because she spends so much of her time on woodland caribou, right, Rosalind? It's incredible. A little bit. We have a couple of things happening here which are a little bit complicating for us. We've got federal issues going on, and we attended one of the first of 4 federal stakeholder workshops concerning the National Woodland Caribou Conservation Plan. At the same time, we've got a provincial Woodland Caribou Conservation Plan, which is a much greater concern for us. And so in both plans, that issue is what distinguishes boreal forest-dwelling woodland caribou from tundra-dwelling woodland caribou? What is the distinguishing factors? What constitutes Ontario woodland caribou habitat and the current population range? Those are some of the questions, and they are big questions. And there's questions around access. Lots of questions in that area. And get the annual report, talk to some of your staff here, talk to Doug Ogson, who's chair of the Big Game Committee, but have some dialogue with some staff. It's an ongoing issue, and we're engaged. Advocacy, big role for your federation, and one of the biggest ones over the past year was 391. Candace Hepner spoke to our conference, was convinced, as we were, that this bill had a chance to pass, but it was defeated, 153 to 151. The direct result of 8 Liberal members who supported the bill at second reading but changed their vote. They jumped ship. 12 NDP members who supported the bill were pressured. And in the end, only 6 voted to continue the bill. During the summer, Candace crisscrossed the province, mainly targeting ridings of opposition members. Several member clubs were involved and very helpful, and we thank them. Prior to the debate, we spent an enormous amount of time with media and panel discussions, appearing on TV, radio, and Greg Ferrant did a yeoman's job in that issue. Where's Greg? Not in the room. I'm never going to pay him a compliment again. So Greg did a really good job. But it failed. And when you think of 2 votes, it was 1 vote. If one of those people had kept their word, and I do mean kept their word, it would have been a tie vote. So then we would have had a speaker who would have made the decision. Very disappointing. But the federal government is committed to reintroducing another bill after the next election, if you listen to the news and read the paper, that may be soon, to scrap the long gun registry. Lo and behold, Charlie Angus. Charlie, if you're watching, good morning. Charlie from Timmins, James Bay, was one of those MPs who changed their vote. He was committed to represent his constituents and get rid of this registration of long guns. He changed his vote, and instead, he offered up a compromise. Don't eliminate the gun registry. We'll just simply decriminalize the first time you fail to register. How's that? What a deal! Anyway, we're not paying much attention to that, nor are Charlie's constituents. We have dealt with numerous issues in municipalities with respect to Sunday gun hunting and discharge bylaws. Kingston, Wilmot Township, and the Township of Dutton, Dunwich all approved Sunday gun hunting. We dealt with some discharge issues. Those were all put over to 2011, just on Sunday gun hunting. Remember that it was, and I said I had a lot of respect for this minister, and I still do have respect for this man, David Ramsey. He made this happen, but he was smart. David was no fool. David said, I'm in favor of this. I love this idea. But you know what, Mike? You're going to have to do some work. I'm going to give municipalities an opt-in or an opt-out. So that means that we'll say Sunday gun hunting is okay in Southern Ontario if municipalities agree. That allowed us the opportunity to test the relevancy of hunting when some would question whether it was relevant at all in many of these municipalities. What an opportunity for those people who wanted to end hunting, to go to municipalities and say, don't open up more hunting. That's not good for our municipality. And we heard that, and we had some of those approaches. After the dust settles, we have the majority of municipalities who have agreed that hunting heritage is important in this province, and that hunting heritage is worth protecting, and hunting heritage is worth expanding into Sunday because it's good for me, it's good for you, and it's good for your family. And that's what happened as a result of that. And 140 municipalities are now on side with Sunday gun hunting in Southern Ontario. And I want to thank David Ramsey, who is minister, and this Liberal government for making it happen. And that's the fact. They did do that. And you can applaud because they did do that. Greg and Phil Morlock and Craig Selby are going to do a presentation tomorrow on Algonquin land claim. And in the interest of time, and I was actually surprised there were no questions for the minister, but in the interest of time, is it 11:30 already? Wow. I'm not going to spend any time on this. I'm going to, because I think all of you will be in the room tomorrow. We are engaged. Let me tell you we are engaged, and I will say one thing, that thanks to some help for some good people at M&R and cooperation with the Algonquins, the negotiators, and other people involved, we were able to get the AIP timeline put off, or at least we were told it has been delayed until late year, early next year. You're going to hear that from Greg. So that's a good news because that allows us to become engaged. And again, I keep mentioning Rosalind's name, but we have a really good relationship with Rosalind. And Rosalind has got us to the table on some of the discussions around the concerns we have for the land claim issue, and we're very pleased with that, and we look forward to that continuing over the course of 2011. So I'm going to move through this because Greg is going to cover much of this tomorrow. I do want to mention the Congress, the National Fish and Wildlife Conservation Congress. We're developing this for May of 2012. It will examine the future of natural resources, public policy, the need for U.S. and Canada cooperation. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to showcase what we have here in Ontario. Greg is the lead on this. And look at the partners we have already, the lead partners, including our own Ministry of Natural Resources, who knows this is important. And I think there will be 500 to 1,000 people at this event. And what are the benefits? The benefits are that we will have a greater understanding of what we need to do to make sure that the conservation message is spread in Canada and the U.S. consistently and effectively, and that much of that will protect our interests in fishing and hunting. That's what that will do. And I hope that you will be able to attend. Some of your clubs, some of your people, I know some staff here from M&R will obviously be there. But it will be a great opportunity. There's a Bill 465, an act respecting a National Hunting and Trapping and Fishing Heritage Day. MP Rick Norlock, I think he's going to be here on the weekend. We're supportive of that bill. We want that to happen. It should be coming up in the spring of 2011. Fees assessed against volunteer hatcheries. Again, we're trying to get this corrected. We've been trying to get this corrected for some time. We've got some renewed interest in trying to get MOE engaged and making sure this doesn't just continue to spin out of control, but we don't want our hatcheries treated as industrial polluters. They're not. And they're raising fish for the good of their own community. So why should they be assessed costs that are enormous and unmanageable for many of our clubs? That's the issue there. And amendments to the Highway Traffic Act, re-ATV use. Again, there aren't any charges being laid to my understanding, but what has happened is in the process of this act in 2003 being established to allow ATVs on certain provincial highways, the process overlooked Crown Forest access roads, which are considered highways, and we're trying to get that corrected. Species at risk. Boy, I don't know how much time I can spend on this. This is an awful piece of legislation, one that we warned the provincial government if they get into it, they would never get out. We already had national or federal legislation. We didn't need, in our opinion, provincial legislation that would trump, compromise, throw out of balance what was already happening at the national level. We don't agree with the assessment on snapping turtles, highly questionable. And think of our farm community friends, Peter Jeffrey, who's in the room. What are they going to do when somebody sees a bobolink in a hayfield with 50 acres? There are 400,000 breeding pairs of bobolinks in Ontario. So how did the committee arrive at establishing this as a species at risk? God forbid I'm a farmer who has reported a nesting pair of bobolinks in a 100-acre hayfield. What is he or she to do? Are they to hay? Are they to leave the field standing? Are they going to be provided with compensation if that happens? There are so many unanswered questions. There are dangerous precedents being set here. I believe there are some people within government who understand that this is becoming cumbersome and awkward, and we hope that over the course of time, many more people will realize this, and this will be corrected. Renewable energy, the wind power development issue has been put on hold, as you know, by the Premier. That's a good thing. It gives us more time to become engaged. I should be spending time on this, but I'm not. Please read your manual or talk to Scott Petrie. And again, I apologize to our staff because I'm going to be starting to move through this stuff fairly quickly here. So, and somebody always ends up at the short end of the stick here. Land use management and access. Caribou Conservation Plan. Again, we've talked about it. It's all about access. Forest management. Again, it becomes about access. Decommissioning roads. Andy raised it. Decommissioning roads immediately following completion of forest operations. It's the same song all the time. And we continue to deal with it. Lac Seul and Black Spruce Forests, the same thing. Involves southward expansion of the continuous caribou zone, which is a problem. And there is some scheduled abandonment of forest access roads, which becomes a problem. We recommend that in this area, roads should be retained for at least 20 to 40 years. Road access would facilitate moose harvest and assist in the management of moose densities. So there's lots of good reasons. Here's one that we were successful achieving with really great help from people at the regional level. We successfully addressed the access restriction on the Spanish Arm Road with help from many of our clubs and members in the area. In early 2010, the decision was appealed. We met with the regional director in late January and stated our rationale for removing the gate that was put up on that road to restrict access. And the decision was received in March that they were supportive of the district manager and OFH recommendations, and the gate was removed. There are some restrictions on certain lakes to protect some lake trout areas, but the gate's gone, thank goodness. But here we have another example, Pineland Forest. It's about balance, and it's mostly related to road access where our concerns lie. Bancroft, the same thing. Can you imagine this? I don't live far from Bancroft. 180 kilometers of primary and branch roads are planned for decommissioning. 180 kilometers. Crown Land Use Area Harmonization Project. Read about it in here. Nature Conservancy of Canada, quick point. We've had great meetings with Nature Conservancy. They own and manage a number of properties, a lot in Ontario, and they're wanting help from this federation to facilitate safe and responsible hunting on their properties through OFAH connections and clubs. That's relevance. Who would have thought? That's relevance for hunting. So we're looking forward to continuing those discussions. Provincial parks, again, we're disappointed to learn in the Quetico example that active wildlife management had not been included as a management option for Quetico Provincial Park. Really disappointed. Kawartha Highlands signature site was great this past year. We got over the hurdles of Kawartha Highlands with much, again, a lot of help from people and from staff, including former ADM Kevin Wilson, but also Rosalind and others, and Minister Cansfield at the time. We're encouraged to hear that hunting and fishing activities are alive and well within Kawartha Highland, and a lot of the ATV issues we had with recreational riders, those issues have been fixed. Presqu'île. Well, you heard a question on cormorants. We need another cull at Presqu'île. We need people to follow the park management plan and do some culling. The simple thing here is, folks, just remove the restriction on cormorants. They're protected. Take them off the protected list. The government doesn't need to tell anybody that they're going to cull. There's no requirement for anybody to say anything. Just remove some of the birds. And we're not talking about wiping cormorants out. We're talking about controlling numbers. The nests in Presqu'île have increased to 6,000. It's already been determined that the carrying capacity was 1,500 to 2,000. It's gone right back up again after all that work. So we need to do something about that. Research grants. Terry and others are going to be involved in research grant awards tonight. You're going to see 3 great winners for 2010, Matthew Bond, Ashley, and Everett Hanna. So look forward to that this evening. We did a lot of funding this past year, provincial projects. We're Sydenham Sportsman's Club for some work for their hatchery. Long Point Waterfowl. Sandhill Crane Study. Some provincial projects, including a lot of support for FMZs as you see through this list. You'll see it again. Provincial projects on the Fisheries Center at Queen's University. Haliburton Highlands for their hatchery. And the zones were contributing their own money. You can see again support for FMZ, support for the Sandhill Crane Study. In a time of economic uncertainty, we were very generous and all for the right reasons. And the financial results of your federation, Frank talked about it a little bit. We had another great year. We have had 6 consecutive years of much better than balanced budget, and all on the right side of the ledger, which is a good thing. We have great investments and cash in the bank, which keeps us healthy. Got a good fund in place. We continue to deliver a variety of conservation programs with the resources we have and continue to expand. When we are good at running our business, we are continuing to grow our business, and we are continuing to expand for the benefit of our membership. So a lot of the programs that we deliver are as a result of our success. Our auditors remain very pleased that we continue to reinvest our assets in new and continuing programs. So, and I'll wrap up with strategic plan. And again, I apologize for really giving you an overview on some of these items that our people are working on. At the end of the session, you're going to be given a strategic planning document, and it is online also, and it will be at the back of the room when you leave. But I just want to quickly review our strategic plan that our board had adopted in September of last year. A little bit of an overview, you know the story. In March 23rd, and if you don't, this will be interesting. In March 23rd, 1928, a group of anglers concerned for the future of the province's fish populations formed the Ontario Federation of Anglers. 1928. They took on some initiatives. They had some important founding clubs that they were working with, And a petition was created to undertake a survey of Ontario game fish, and its findings were published in 1931. The Federation urged the government to conduct a similar survey of provincial game, which was completed in 1933. Way back then, we have visionaries involved in this organization who knew that we needed the science. 1947, several hunting organizations joined forces, and we became the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters. As we grew, we needed a permanent home. I happened to come on staff right at the time that we were having a discussion at the board level about moving OFAH back to Toronto. Imagine that. We needed to be closer to M&R. Ultimately, M&R moved to Peterborough, so that was a nice surprise. But we had a member, and you talk about members who make significant contributions to the Federation, people like Mario Cortellucci. We had a member who was living in Peterborough, David Wilson, a philanthropist, a Mario Cortellucci in his time, who donated 9 acres of property on the Otonabee River because he said, you should not be in Toronto. I love this organization. You should be in Peterborough. So, we opened the Ontario Conservation Centre in 1993, and the original plans at that time included a museum, heritage centre, and ultimately, we have our dream. Throughout its history, we've taken a sustainable science-based approach to fish and wildlife management. We've done things like restore wild turkey, wood duck recovery, current efforts on Atlantic salmon, and of course elk, and controlling the spread of invasive species. What do we look like today? 100,000 members, subscribers, supporters, 670 clubs, internationally acclaimed for our programs and advocacy achievements. We deliver a great magazine, a television, award-winning youth programs, head office operation with 75 full-time, part-time, and contract staff. 75. Grassroots. You are the membership. We are grassroots. Board of Directors determines policy. Staff deliver the strategy, and the Executive Director is responsible for the business operation. So when as I'm reading this, think about it, listen to the words, and reflect on what it means to you, because I really believe that our board and our staff committee have captured the essence of OFAH. So the vision, a future that includes healthy lakes and forests, bountiful fish and wildlife, and the opportunities for all Ontarians to share our passion for hunting, fishing, and conservation. That's the vision. Mission, as the voice of anglers and hunters and as a leader in fish and wildlife conservation in the province of Ontario, the OFAH will, strive to ensure the protection of our hunting and fishing heritage and the enhancement of hunting and fishing opportunities. Encourage safe and responsible participation. Champion the conservation of Ontario's fish and wildlife resources which so enrich our lives. And our values. The voice of anglers and hunters. As the voice of anglers and hunters, the OFAH will professionally represent Ontario's anglers and hunters, their hunting and fishing rights and traditions, their passion for hunting and fishing, and for fish and wildlife conservation. Hunting and fishing heritage. The OFAH supports and will seek to enhance Ontario's rich traditions of hunting and fishing and the quality of life they represent. Conservation. The OFAH will promote, encourage, and seek to ensure that the conservation of Ontario's fish and wildlife, their habitats and their ecosystems that support them, to ensure continuing benefits to anglers and hunters, and by extension, all people in Ontario. Proactive management. OFAH will encourage, conduct, and lead proactive fish and wildlife management individually in cooperation with others to ensure the conservation of resources, the protection and enhancement of our hunting and fishing heritage, and the provision of benefits to meet the needs of Ontarians. And the core programs go on, and I want you to read those. In the interest of time, I want you to get one of the brochures that we've produced. Take it home and read it. But these are the values that our board and our staff have spent a lot of time documenting and putting into what I believe is a very, very important and fundamental, basic, sound management document that we'll be able to use for future years. And so I hope you read it. If you have any comments, talk to some of your board members and talk to some of us. But take it home, and part of that will be online. Excuse me. So I might have time for a couple of questions, but I do want to, as I'm losing my voice, Leslie, you're so lucky. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for our people at home who are viewing today for the very first time live streaming. We want to hear how that worked for you. Thanks to all of you in the room for being here. Our attendance is actually higher this year than it has been in the last few years. And we don't even have Stephen Harper on Saturday night. It's amazing. Thanks, everyone, for all your hard work this year, and thanks to our staff and our board. Thank you.